Good afternoon, it's Friday afternoon in fact, and welcome to Summer's Way of Life. And today, as you can see, I'm in the garden. The sun has come out this afternoon, and I'm going to do a nice long video giving you a complete garden update. And for those of you who are attempting to get out in your garden and grow things, I think this might help you because it'll at least give you some idea of how I'm thinking based on my just last 2-3 years of experience and no expertise from historical as a gardener or anything like that. It just went out and threw seeds in the ground and learned from practical experience. So hopefully it'll encourage you to do the same. So let's start. Right, so first up, just to let you know that it's not a good lunar day. If I remember correctly, looking at the calendar, it's an apogee moon. So an apogee moon is when the moon, if I remember correctly, is furthest away from Earth. And a perigee moon is when the moon is closest to the Earth, so it has a very watery influence. On an apogee moon in general, it's not a good time to do any sensitive work in the garden. Now remember, it doesn't mean you don't have to do anything at all. I just like to follow the lunar rhythm when it comes to gardening, because I've tried it for 2 years and it's had extraordinary results. But I've been consistent, and I have tried not using the guides given based on lunar cycles, and the results have been okay. I'm not saying nothing worked. It did work, but what I'm saying is the results were extraordinary when I sowed seeds on the correct lunar day or transplanted in the afternoon on the correct day as well. They were visibly, it was, one would say you've just been very lucky. I wasn't lucky. I was just working in the garden in alignment to nature's rhythms. So the sun's gone back in. I hope it comes back out. So let me get started, and I'll start in the greenhouse. So in the greenhouse, I was busy yesterday. Yesterday was a fruit day, and a lot of things in the garden are fruit, not least tomatoes. So I had okra growing inside the house. This one doesn't look like it survived, and that happens. See what's happened? I don't know whether they will. This one has, and these ones here all seem to have done quite well. So I will water these, but I've transplanted these into different pots. Here are 2 more over here that I've transplanted, and I'm going to let them grow a little bit bigger before putting each one into its individual pot. I just don't have the room at the moment, and they need a lot more heat. See these falling? I'm hoping if I water it, perhaps I didn't water it enough, they will survive. So I don't give up. I'm very patient. This one looks like it's had its day, but these I'm going to water. I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to encourage them to stand back up. It is interesting to see that these ones that haven't done so well are not as hardy, because I label everything, as you can see here. And these were the ones that came from India. Only 20% of them survived, and now you can see only 1 has survived. These ones, which were genetically modified, and these are from Doha, I bought these. These have all done really well. I just picked the best 4, and they seem to be quite hardy and resistant. So it can be very misleading, because you think they're doing really, really well, or that one hasn't done so well, but you're working with nature's cycles, and I really try hard. It's much harder to work with organic heritage seeds, especially with the fact that we have such poor soil now. So keep persevering, and that's why I say that don't worry too much about heritage seeds when you just start out, because it can be very demoralizing. So just get something going, and then you start to get experience and get better, and then you can switch over to heritage organic heirloom seeds, which is the way we should be going. Okay, let me go back to the greenhouse. Most of the transplanting here are tomatoes. So these were all, if you remember, they were all in a seed tray like this at the top. And yesterday I watered the seed tray, prepared a nice manure-y, dry chicken manure and homemade compost, and a little bit of potting compost at the top, and I just transplanted the strongest of the tomatoes. There's a lot here. There's beefsteak tomatoes, There's green slicing tomatoes, heirloom, and then there's your regular gardener's delight. And of course, I'm not just thinking about myself, I'm thinking about mum, family. They all use them raw, but also we use them a lot in cooking, and they can be frozen. Just pop your little tomatoes in a freeze bag and they last all winter for passatas and anything else that you want to make. So I was busy with the tomatoes, I was busy with the lady fingers. Also yesterday, if you remember, in this gutter I had sugarsnap peas, and I've transplanted all these, and they're doing really well. These 3 I put into a pot. These ones I put into the raised bed. I put them in different places, and these ones I've put into the border over here. 3 here, 3 here, and 3 here. With the sugarsnap peas, they don't even get inside the house, because as soon as the plant grows, and it's quite an invasive kind of plant, as soon as it grows, the sugarsnap peas start growing. Now, if you let them grow really big and fat, you can get the peas from inside. But I can't resist them. When they're still growing and they're still nice and thin, I just pull them off and put the whole lot in my mouth. And they're so sweet. They're just delicious. So I just fill my belly with these sugarsnap peas in the summer, and that's why I've got so many of these plants. They just hang off. It's one of the easiest fruits to grow. You know, you might think of it as a vegetable, but they've got seeds, so they're fruit. It's one of the easiest ones to grow. The other thing I'm going to show you in the garden, a lot of people have said that carrots are not going to do so well this year because we've had a lot of rain, so they're rotting, especially if you have a monoculture, large expanses of carrots. I've just dotted them around, and there are a lot of places, because of the weather we've had, which has been so erratic and so much rain and so much wind, that a lot of the seedlings I planted outside, which would normally have been okay, they did not germinate. So let me turn this around. I had carrots all along here. You can see I've got a little sign here saying carrots, and nothing has come up. I've left it alone to see if it might come up, but the seedlings I popped in a pot here, they are all germinating, and they've just been left out and it's rained, but I put a very light soil mix so it drains really well, and it appears to have worked. I have put carrots in other places. I haven't seen any sign of them yet, but you see, you have to learn to be patient. When the right soil environment is created and it heats up, they might just pop out when you're just not expecting it. So just be patient, keep watering, keep talking to your soil, keep talking to the plants, because they do hear you. They are alive. Another thing I did this morning, for the early hours of this morning, we had the end of a fruit day, and I did a little bit of research on my plum tree and the best time to spray it, and apparently is the better time. So it is a descending moon, and I did it in the morning, and there was a reason for it, and I've completely forgotten why the morning is better to spray the plum tree. I've forgotten. You can look it up. So I made a mixture of a very basic aspirin and water. I crushed it, mixed it up, and I just sprayed gently the you can see these little, I'm assuming these are going to be baby plums coming up later, and there's lots of them because I pruned this really well. You can see it's got that goblet look. I don't know if I'm further back enough, but hopefully it's going to have beautiful fruit. So I managed to do that. Also down here you can see I popped spinach seeds in, and these are giant spinach seeds, and they're all coming up. Remember, each of these is going to make one huge plant that I'm going to show you in a minute. So all the weak ones I will take out, and with patience, these big ones here will provide many leaves over the summer. And just to show you here in the raised bed, it looks completely empty, but if I kind of do this kind of a landscape, you can see little green things shooting up. I can see the leeks from here. I can see chard leaves just coming out of the soil there. Lettuce, I can see things coming up. Onions, a few of them, you can just barely see an onion stalk. But in my greenhouse there are literally about 200 onion stalks there, so I have to do something with them soon. Also, let me show you these. This is rosemary and English lavender. Hasn't flowered yet, but I bought these from a local garden centre. They were quite good value for money. I think it was from B&Q actually. Those of you in the UK know that B&Q is a very good value place, although it has gone up in price. And these are great. It's really, can you see them? It's great, certainly in this climate, to have lavender and have rosemary, because they're great for companion planting in terms of pushing away pests from certain plants. So I'm going to diligently locate them and put them in areas next to other plants that need to be protected from pests. So that will take time. Now that I'm beginning to transplant out, I'm thinking about companion planting, interplanting. The peas, you can see I've put next to the strawberries, because peas and strawberries like to be together. One feeds off the other. It's a wonderful, what's that type of relationship called, where one helps the other? It's just left my mind right now. So finally, well, not finally, there's a lot more going on here. Let me show you these beautiful sunflowers. They're everywhere, but I will not put them out yet because it's not warm enough, and I've heard that there might be a frost coming up in the next 2-3 days. Not tomorrow either, it's not a good lunar day, but it's a root day, and these are beetroot, and I am going to be planting the beetroot out. I think they will be okay. On the next flower day, there's all these wonderful, look at these nasturtiums. Those of you who know nasturtiums, how wonderful are they? The cabbages I've already repotted. The marigolds are coming out. They need to be repotted so they can get bigger. And then there's broccoli and all sorts of things going on. And look at the lots and lots of onions here. Onions and leeks. There's a lot going on. The thing I want to say to you is nothing is a waste of time. I had quite a few pots with onion seeds in them that didn't come up, and I knew it was unlikely, and given that I had already so many onions in the greenhouse, I then picked up that pot and I used it to repot other plants. That's how I work. So you've got to make a call on these things. You don't just sit there and say, well, I'm just going to wait. If I've got enough onions in there, I just use that same soil, because it's hard work. Picking it up, filling it up, mixing the soil, it can do your back in. I mean, I'm not 22 anymore, and even though I could arguably say I'm fitter than a lot of 22-year-olds, I think most of us at our age, if we're looking after ourselves, we were lucky enough to be born with very good immunity. The other two generations haven't, below us. It's sad, but we have got a lot of resilience and strength in us, right up till I think we're the last generation to have that. But that is it's a sad fact. So it does take time and effort, but it's good exercise. The other thing I want to show you, not a vegetable, is just a beautiful structural plant. Look at that. And what I'm going to do, I went to the garden centre for inspiration, and I saw these cordylines. Look at the colour. It's that beautiful kind of deep purple, and I'm going to be planting marigolds all around it, and then I will keep this entire beautiful green, it's just a lovely green stone pot. I'll keep it near the particular fruits and vegetables that will benefit from having marigolds close by. One thing I've learned a lesson about marigolds is I will not put them out until they flowered, so they'll stay in the greenhouse, because if you put them out, they are a honeypot for slugs. Slugs love marigolds until they flower, and then they run. So last year, a lot of my marigolds were eaten. The year before last, sorry. This year, I'm going to make sure they flower in the greenhouse, and then as soon as they start to flower, they're coming out to play in the main garden. So now what else can I show you? So over here, you can see Ian has put these up for me, and I'm thinking, well, I could put hanging baskets, but because I'm somebody who's practical and functional, I'm probably going to put baskets full trailing strawberries, and that can be just picked off and eaten. So I might put a few marigolds and then some strawberries I'll find from the garden centre that kind of grow and trail downwards, and that would be lovely because the sun is hitting it pretty much all day. I'll also put some beautiful flowers up, just another two standing here, so hopefully it will look beautiful in the summer. Also, I picked up these from the garden centre today. This is a Moroccan mint, and I shouldn't have bought it, but I did because I know my son wants to take some of it back with him to the Middle East, so I'll just have to give him the stalk, cut it gently. And this is a thyme, and normally the last 3 years I've grown my own thyme. None of it germinated. I don't know why it didn't germinate. It's hard to grow your own thyme from seed, and I've had great success in the past. Not this year, so I just bought a thyme plant, and I'll keep it in a nice pot so I can move it around to the right place. What else can I show you? Just this area here looks so beautiful. You can see, in fact you can't see it properly because the sun isn't there, but I have shown it to you before, but can you see how everything is now filling out? The heuchera is filling out, and that beautiful acer there, the Japanese maple, filling out. The rhododendrons, if I hone in on it, you can see they're just dying to bloom, and they look pink but they actually bloom into really lovely white flowers. It's extraordinary. And now the other thing I want to show you is last year's spinach. Look at this. So these are ready to eat, and I haven't eaten them. I think the slugs are getting them, but I really need to cut these leaves to encourage more to grow and start eating them with my steak or whatever. This is an arum lily, can be a bit of a pest. Here's a wonderful clematis, and can you see, look, it wants to flower here. And when I was in the garden centre, I saw how they had these little towers raising above them to help them climb. So I'm actually going to put one of them out. I've got a couple of them there, and so that the clematis can climb over it. The garden's lovely. The potatoes are doing really well. If you remember when I showed you the seed potatoes from last time, let me just go back out and show you how they're doing. People have not done so well with their seed potatoes, but look at them. Look, this is only what, 2 weeks, and they're growing beautifully. So on the next root day, which is a couple of days away, I'm going to start layering, and all I'm going to do in here, you see this is soil and a mixture of chicken manure which has been well rotted. My own chicken manure, I mean my chicken's chicken manure, right? Each of these plants should yield about, what, 10, 15 potatoes. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 30, 40, 50. So there's about 160 potatoes there if it does well. Now when I layer it, so I'm just going to put more soil in so that there's just a little bit of the green at the top, because it's a root that I want to, that we're going to eat, the potato tuber, the root. So I'm going to not put more soil in, I'm not going to put more compost in, I am going to put straw and chicken manure in. If you remember, we were talking about how selfish potatoes and tomatoes are. Just give them raw organic matter like manure and they will thrive. And I've got a ton of it in the garlic in the garden, and that's what they are going to have. So that, I think, that's it in the garden. I can't, oh yeah, finally, you might recognise these. These are mice and rat traps. And yes, I have got mice. Where you've got compost and hens, even if you don't have them in the UK, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. So I've had to water my compost heap really well. They love the compost heap. It's nice and warm, easy for them to breed. But I have really had to take so many different measures. I've tried poisoning them, which I don't like doing, and also putting poison down on the soil is not good for the soil, but they are pests and I'm not going to live with them. And I have discovered, after experience of failing and talking to people from the country who know, that use these rat traps. I've left them out there for a few days. I had gloves on my hands so that my scent isn't on them, because mice can pick up scent. They're very intelligent, rats and mice. And I'm leaving them out there just to air. Then I'm going to put them about in the garden, and I'm going to put a little bit of chocolate in, and I can move them to different places with gloves on, and I'll try and catch the mice. And what I was told was that if you manage to catch mum or dad or one of the main part of the family, then you've got a good chance of getting rid of them. Otherwise they're just going to just take over. So yeah, I saw a couple yesterday, and I very rarely see them. I know they're there because they dig holes, and they've got into the coop as well. They've dug a hole underneath. That's a story for another day. But I'm going to set about catching them now. I have to. The only other thing I can do is get an air rifle and shoot them, but I'm not very good with an air rifle just yet. That's something I need to learn to do. So that's it really for today. The garlic's doing really well, and things have started being transplanted out, and the apple trees are glorious. They just look so healthy. Look at this, the flower. Isn't that lovely? And the other apple tree, which is always slow, has started as well. And you can see I've pruned it, and the shape, the nice goblet shape that it's got. See? The last thing I want to show you, I want to bore you, but I mentioned to you in a few videos back that I am, there are some areas where I had paving slabs that I'm grassing. I'm putting grass down, and I'm doing it in small stages because it's hard work. Because you've got to soak it, you've got to dig it up, and then I've got to get the scarifier, and then sow the seeds, and then put compost on top, and buckets back and forth. So I do small areas. So I've done a little area here and here. This area I did about 4 weeks ago, and you can see, you can't even tell because the grass is growing. And I've just got a few bare bits here and at the back of the garden there, at the front of the garden there to complete. Will be grassed up for the summer, and I can decide where to put the permanent paving slabs for the winter. I hope you are getting out in the garden and you're not just watching this every day thinking, what's she doing next? This whole point of these videos and everything I do is designed to encourage you to get out and start. That's the only reason I do these videos. I don't want to spend time on social media, but I have to share my knowledge. So this is why I'm sharing with you. So please value that. Value that. There has to be an equitable exchange of energy, and all I'm asking as in return for the time and effort I'm giving you and showing you is that you get up and go out and do this for yourself. It's important that you do that and spend less time, ironically, off this screen. It's so important for so many reasons right now, not least because it helps you to think for yourself. You start seeing life in a different way. You start recognizing things that you didn't before, and you awaken in so many ways, not just from an intuitive point of view, but even from an inner reasoning point of view. You start seeing what this is all about. Why am I working? Why am I doing this? It isn't something that I should just accept. This is how I should be living. This is nature. And then you'll start seeing the enslavement of the world, and you start seeing things in a different way. And it's not just about looking at that and thinking there's nothing I can do about it, which is what Dr. Shiva says is learned helplessness. That's what media teaches you, puts into your brain. It's not. Once you get out and you start doing things yourself, you think, I've got power. I've got the ability to whatever your gift is, to help people and encourage people. And I've got the ability to build a community. You may say, I've got the ability to be a leader and start some kind of a movement in my community. That's what I'm trying to encourage you to do. That's what's so important. I made a beautiful salmon curry today. I'm going to put the short up just to show you, and another time I'll show you how to cook it, because it's one of the easiest things to cook and probably the most delicious fish curry I have ever eaten. My mum's recipe, of course. So have a lovely day, and I hope you get out into your gardens. Bye.